I didn't realize pancakes could be a warning, not until the batter was still warm on my fingers. And the man in the doorway said my name like it was a sentence. If you're new here, breathe. This isn't a cute nanny job story. This is the kind where the kitchen light feels too bright, the hallway feels too long, and the person paying you smiles like he already knows how it ends. The last thing you heard was the front door closing. The last thing I saw was him. Tall, quiet, perfectly dressed like he'd stepped out of a boardroom and into my crisis on purpose. The two men who'd backed me into the counter, who'd laughed when I tried to call for help, went still the second he entered. Not because he shouted, because he didn't have to. He just looked at them, and something in their faces shifted, like they remembered a rule they'd tried to forget. Step away from her, he said. His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was final. One of the men, thicker, uglier, smelling like cigarettes and cheap cologne, forced a smile. Hey, boss. Misunderstanding. We're just... The man in the doorway lifted his hand. Not a wave. A stop sign. The room obeyed it. Behind him, two more men appeared, like shadows deciding to become real. Black suits. Silent. No wasted movement. The kind of people you notice only after it's too late. The thicker man swallowed. We didn't touch anything. You touched my house, the man said. Then he looked at me. Not at the men, not at the mess, not at the pancake batter dripping down the bowl. At me. And his eyes were calm in a way that made my stomach flip. Are you hurt? He asked. I tried to answer, but my throat was tight. I shook my head once. His gaze flicked to the three kids lined up at the edge of the doorway, like they'd been watching the whole thing through a crack in reality. The oldest, a boy with two old eyes, didn't look scared. He looked relieved, like the moment he'd been waiting for had arrived. The man's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. Good, he said, and I wasn't sure if he meant me or the fact that the kids were still breathing. Then he turned back to the intruders. You have 30 seconds, he said, to tell me who sent you. The thinner one laughed, too loud, too fast. Nobody sent us. We were just... A hand landed on his shoulder. One of the suit men placed his palm down with gentle pressure. The thinner man's laugh died mid-sound. He winced like his bones had suddenly remembered pain. The man in the doorway didn't raise his voice. He didn't move closer. He just said, 28. The thicker man's eyes darted toward the kitchen window, toward escape. The man's gaze followed his, then returned. No, he said softly. The word felt like a locked door. The thicker man's bravado cracked. Okay. It was a guy. We don't know his name. We got paid to scare her. That's it. Who paid you? The man asked. The thicker man hesitated. The man's eyes didn't change. 24. The thicker man's lips trembled. A woman. Blonde. She met us at a diner. Said you'd be out of town. The oldest boy's eyes narrowed. My stomach dropped. Out of town. They knew his schedule. Name, the man demanded. The thicker man shook his head quickly. We don't know. She had a ring, big, like a coin, and a scar. Here. He pointed to his cheek. For a second, the man's gaze went distant, like he'd just seen someone in his mind. Then he nodded once. Remove them, he said to his men. The thinner man stiffened. Wait, remove us where? The man stepped fully into the kitchen. He moved like he had no fear of anything in this house. Like fear had to ask permission to exist around him. He passed behind me, close enough that I caught the scent of clean cologne and something colder under it. Metal, maybe? Night air? Danger? He didn't touch me, but I felt warmer anyway. Now, he said. Mara, my head snapped up. I hadn't told him my name. I hadn't even signed anything yet. I'd been hired through an agency that spoke to me like I was a replaceable part, but he said it like he'd known it for years. Mara, he repeated, eyes on mine. Take the children upstairs. Lock the door to the nursery wing. Do not open it for anyone except me. Understand? My mouth opened. I understand, he said again, softer. And something in me obeyed, even as my mind screamed. I nodded. The kids didn't need to be told twice. The oldest boy moved first, sliding past me with a strange kind of confidence. The twins, 6 maybe, grabbed my hands like they decided I was theirs. We go to the blue room, one of them whispered. The blue room? I echoed. It's safe, the oldest boy said, already halfway down the hallway. If he says lock, you lock. I looked back once. The man was standing in my kitchen like a storm contained in a suit. His men were guiding the intruders toward the door with calm efficiency. The thicker man looked over his shoulder at me, eyes wide now. We didn't mean... The man's gaze snapped to him. The thicker man shut up like his throat had been turned off. I ushered the kids upstairs, my legs moving on instinct. My heart was still slamming, my hands were still sticky with pancake batter. and I still didn't know what kind of house I'd stepped into. Upstairs, the hallway changed. The carpet was thick, pale, silent. The walls held oil paintings of landscapes that felt too lonely. The air smelled faintly like cedar and expensive soap. The oldest boy stopped at a door painted a muted blue and pressed his palm to a small panel beside it. A green light blinked. The door unlocked with a soft click. My stomach dropped. "That's not a normal nursery." "No," he said. Inside, the room was massive. 2 beds, a couch, a built-in bookshelf, and cameras in the corners disguised as smoke detectors. The twins climbed onto the couch like they'd done it 1,000 times. I shut the door, then I locked it. 3 locks slid into place with a heavy, satisfying sound. The oldest boy pulled the curtain away from the window and peeked out. "Do you have a phone?" I whispered. He glanced at me. "Phones don't work in this wing." "What?" My voice cracked. "Why?" "Because people like to listen," he said, like that was obvious. My throat went dry. "Who are you?" I asked, and the question landed on him. Not the child he looked like, but the person he sounded like. He turned his head slowly. "My name's Silas," he said, "and if you're smart, you won't ask the other question." "The other question? Who he is," Silas said quietly. One of the twins leaned against me, small and warm. "Don't be scared," she whispered. "He doesn't let bad people stay." My stomach clenched. "You mean your dad?" Silas's expression flickered. Then he said, "No." The word dropped like a stone. The twins stared at the door like they could see through it. I forced myself to breathe. "Where's your mother?" I asked softly. Silas didn't answer. The twins' fingers tightened around mine. "Don't," one whispered. A chill crawled up my spine. Downstairs, something thumped, a muffled shout, then silent. I flinched. Silas watched me. "You're not like the others," he said. "What others?" "The ones they send," he replied. "They send nannies?" Silas's mouth twitched like that was almost funny. "They send whatever they can." My breath caught. "They wanted to scare me," I whispered. "That's what the man said." Silas's eyes hardened. "They wanted to see if he'd come." My blood turned cold. Before I could ask who they were, the intercom speaker in the corner crackled. A voice came through, low, controlled, familiar. "My little wolves," it said. "Report." Silas didn't look surprised. He stepped closer to the speaker. "3 intruders," he said. "Kitchen, 2 removed, 1 left alive." The voice paused. "Left alive? Because you said you wanted a message," Silas replied. A beat. Then the voice said, "Good boy." My skin prickled. That was not a father talking to his son. That was a commander praising a soldier. The voice came again, softer now. "And Mara?" I swallowed. He said my name like it belonged to him. "I'm here," I said, before I could stop myself. Silas's eyes flicked to me, warning. The voice didn't change. "Are you locked in?" "Yes," I whispered. "Good," it said. "Stay there." Then, like it mattered for some reason, his voice dropped to something almost gentle. "You made pancakes." I blinked. "What?" A small exhale that could have been amusement. "They like pancakes." The twins grinned. Silas didn't. I stared at the speaker, heart pounding. "How do you know what I made?" "Because nothing happens in my house without me knowing," he said. The intercom clicked off. Silence returned. My mouth went dry. Silas whispered, "Now you know." "Know what?" "That he's always watching," Silas said. A minute passed, then another. The twins started to get restless, shifting like kittens. Silas stood perfectly still, and I sat there with my mind racing. This wasn't normal wealth. This wasn't normal protection. This was something organized. Something violent behind the curtains. Then the blue room's door handle jiggled once. The twins went silent instantly. Silas moved in front of them without thinking. My heart slammed. The handle jiggled again. Then a voice came through the wood. Low, unfamiliar. "Open up," it said. "It's okay." Silas's jaw tightened. I whispered, "Who is that?" He didn't answer. The voice tried again. "Mara." My blood turned to ice. Silas looked at me sharply. "That isn't him," he whispered. The voice outside was using my name. I hadn't told anyone in this house except the man downstairs and the intercom, which meant someone was listening. The handle jiggled harder, then a soft tap against the door, like a gentle knock. "Mara," the voice said again, almost kind. "They're gone. You can come out." The twins' fingers dug into my arm. Silas whispered, "Don't move." The voice outside sighed, like it was disappointed. Then it said something that made my stomach flip. "Your agency called. They said you didn't sign your waiver." My mouth opened, no sound. That was too specific, too real. Silas's eyes widened slightly, the first crack in his composure. The voice outside continued, If you don't open, he'll blame you when the children get hurt. My throat went tight. The twins whimpered. Silas stepped closer to the door, voice sharp. Who are you? A pause. Then the voice said, someone who wants to take you off the board. My legs went weak. Silas's hand moved to the panel beside the door. He didn't press it, he hovered. Then the voice outside laughed softly. You think the locks matter? It said. They don't. Not when I have the code. The panel blinked. Red, green, red. The locks clicked once, like they were trying to decide who they belonged to. The twins started to cry, silent tears spilling down their cheeks. Silas whispered, he told us not to open. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my teeth. The panel flashed green. The locks slid, one by one, heavy, final, betrayal. The door began to open, just a crack, darkness beyond, a shape, a hand. I stood up so fast my knees hit the couch. Back, I whispered to the kids, pulling them behind me. Silas grabbed a small object from a drawer, something metallic, sharp, not a toy. The door opened another inch, and then a voice, deeper, colder, coming from the hallway behind the intruder. Step away from my door. Everything stopped. The hand froze on the door edge. Silas's shoulders dropped in relief like he'd been holding the world. The intruder's voice went tight. Sir. The deeper voice cut through like a blade. You don't get to say that word, it said. Not in my house. A beat. Then I heard the soft, unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. Not loud, just decisive. The intruder stuttered. I can explain, the deeper voice said. I know, Silas whispered to me, almost reverent. That's him. The intruder's breathing sped up. She's just a nanny. She's nothing. The deeper voice came closer, like he was leaning in. She's not nothing, he said softly. She's the reason you're dead already. My blood froze. The door swung open fully. He stood there, filling the frame like the room had been built for him. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms. His tie was gone. A thin line of blood marked his knuckle like he'd already had to persuade someone. His eyes landed on me, and in them there was no chaos, only control. Behind him, one of his men held the intruder by the collar. The intruder's face was pale, sweat on his upper lip. He stepped into the blue room without asking permission. The twins rushed to him like he was gravity. He crouched, let them cling, pressed his hand to their hair once. Brief, protective, practiced. Then he stood and looked at Silas. Report, he said. Silas didn't flinch. Door override. Voice mimic. He knew her name. The man's jaw tightened. He looked back at the intruder. Voice mimic, he repeated softly. The intruder tried to smile. It's just a trick. The man's gaze turned flat. Who gave you access codes? He asked. The intruder swallowed. The man waited. The intruder's eyes darted to me. Then he said, the woman with the coin ring. The man's face didn't change, but the air in the room did. It got colder. He turned to his man. Take him to the basement. The intruder started to panic. Wait, no, please. The man didn't even look at him anymore. The man dragged him out. The door shut. Silence. I stood there shaking. He turned back to me, and his gaze softened just enough to be dangerous. You did exactly what you were supposed to do, he said. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, I whispered. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the tiny scar at the edge of his eyebrow, close enough that his presence made my body register heat even while my mind screamed. He lifted his hand slowly, like he was asking permission without words. Then he wiped a streak of pancake batter from my wrist with his thumb. The touch was brief, intimate in a way that made my stomach flip. You're supposed to stay alive, he said quietly. My mouth went dry. Who are you? He held my gaze. And for the first time, his mask slipped just a little, like he was deciding whether the truth would scare me away or lock me in. My name is Adrian Vale, he said. The name sounded like it belonged on a building, or a headline. Silas's eyes flicked away, like even hearing it was risky. And? I pressed, because I couldn't stop. Adrian's gaze stayed on mine. And you were not hired to make pancakes, he said. You were hired to make me come home. My breath caught. I know, he said. And the certainty in his voice made me feel exposed. He turned toward the twins. Bed, he told them gently. They hesitated. His voice softened. I'm here. They nodded and disappeared into the sleeping area with Silas like it was a routine they'd rehearsed. When the door to their room clicked shut, Adrian turned back to me. The blue room suddenly felt too small. You're shaking, he observed. Someone just tried to break into the nursery, I snapped. He didn't react to my tone. He only watched me. Yes, he said. And they'll try again. My throat tightened. Why? Adrian's gaze drifted to the intercom speaker, then back to me. Because, he said, this house is a fortress, and you are the only new piece on the board. I swallowed. I didn't ask for this. No, he agreed. You were chosen. My skin prickled. By who? Adrian took one step closer. His voice dropped. By my enemy, he said. Or by fate. I don't believe in fate, I whispered. Adrian's mouth twitched. You will. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out something small. A photograph. My heart dropped. It was a photo of me. Not from today, not from the agency profile. A candid shot. Me on a sidewalk, laughing at something, unaware. My stomach twisted. Why do you have that? Adrian's eyes held mine. Because I've been looking for you longer than you've been alive, he said. My knees went weak. That's impossible. Adrian's thumb traced the edge of the photo once, like it was a relic. Then he said, Do you know what your full name is? I frowned. Mara Ellis. He shook his head slowly. No, he said. That's the name someone gave you to hide you. My blood turned cold. He stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of him, the restraint in him, like a predator choosing not to move too fast. And he said very softly, Your real name is Mara Vale. My world tilted. I stared at him. The air felt thin. No, I whispered. No, that's not. Adrian didn't blink. You were taken from this house, he said, voice quiet but brutal, when you were 3 years old. My throat tightened. I don't remember. I know, he said. They made sure you wouldn't. A sound came from the hallway. Faint, distant. A door closing. A footstep. Adrian's head turned slightly, listening. His hand lifted, palm out, telling me without words, Be silent. I went still. Then, from somewhere above us, a tiny metallic click. Adrian's eyes sharpened. He looked up. His voice dropped. Don't move. I didn't. He crossed the room in 2 steps, reached up to the air vent, and with one controlled movement removed the cover. Something small and black fell into his hand. A bug. A listening device. My stomach dropped. Adrian stared at it for half a second. Then he crushed it in his fist like it was nothing. He exhaled. And when he looked back at me, his eyes were no longer calm. They were angry. Not at me. At whoever thought they could reach into his house. They're already here, he said softly. My blood went ice. Who? Adrian didn't answer. He moved to the door, cracked it open, and listened. Nothing. Then, a faint sound, like a whisper sliding under the walls. Not words, movement, too controlled to be a burglar, too quiet to be a normal person. Adrian closed the door. His gaze snapped to mine. Mara, he said, if I tell you the truth tonight, you don't get to go back to being a normal girl who makes pancakes? I stared at him, breath shallow. He continued, voice low. You become mine to protect, mine to hide, mine to keep alive. The word mine hit like a brand. It wasn't romantic, it was possessive. It was a promise and a cage. What if I don't want that? I whispered. Adrian's gaze didn't change. Then you die, he said simply. My breath caught. A loud crash echoed from downstairs. Glass. Then an alarm chirped once. Cut off immediately. Adrian's jaw tightened. He pressed his ear to the door for a fraction of a second. Then he looked back at me. Someone just entered my kitchen, he said. My stomach dropped. That's impossible, I whispered. Your men, they wanted the kitchen, he replied. Not me. He glanced toward the sleeping area, then back to me. They want the pancakes, he said. My heart froze. What? Adrian's voice dropped. Because you touched the batter, he said. And now your fingerprints are on the only thing they can use to frame you. Frame me. For what? Before I could ask, the intercom speaker crackled again. Distorted, hijacked. A woman's voice came through, sweet as sugar. Adrian, it purred. You're home early. Adrian's face went still. My blood ran cold. The voice continued, amused. And you brought her to the nursery. How predictable. Silas's door opened slightly behind me, his eyes wide. The woman's voice laughed softly through the speaker. Tell Mara I said hello. Adrian's gaze snapped to the intercom. Celeste, he said, and his voice made the name sound like a threat. The woman sighed theatrically. Oh, don't be like that. A pause. Then softly, I just wanted to see if she still fits. My skin crawled. Fits. What? Adrian didn't answer me. He stared at the speaker like he could rip it out of the wall with his eyes. Celeste's voice came again. Lower now. You can keep her, she said, if you can find her mother first. My stomach dropped. Adrian's head turned slowly toward me. And in that look, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not for himself, for me. The speaker crackled one last time. And Adrian? Yes, he said, voice deadly quiet. Check the syrup, Celeste whispered. I left you a gift. The line went dead. Silence slammed into the room. I stared at Adrian. What did she mean? Check the syrup? Adrian didn't answer with words. He pulled a small key from his pocket, pressed it into my palm, cold metal. Stay with the children, he said. If I'm not back in 60 seconds, you take them through the wall. My breath caught. Through the wall? Silas whispered. The panel. Adrian's gaze held mine. Don't hesitate, he said. Then he left. The door clicked shut behind him. Lock engaged. Silas moved fast, opening a section of the bookshelf like it was nothing. A hidden panel slid aside. Behind it, a narrow passage lit by soft emergency lights. My stomach flipped. Go, Silas whispered. If he says 60, he means 60. I looked toward the hallway, torn. The twins had woken up, sleepy, rubbing their eyes. What's happening? One whispered. I forced a smile that felt like glass. We're playing a game. They liked that. They always liked that. Because they didn't know what it was to be truly safe. Silas guided them into the passage. I followed, clutching the key, my heart pounding. We moved through the narrow corridor behind the walls like the house had veins. It smelled like dust and cedar and hidden secrets. Halfway down, we passed a small window cut into the wall, just a slit, like a spy hole. Silas pressed his eye to it. Kitchen, he whispered. I stepped closer and looked through. My breath stopped. The kitchen lights were on. The pancake bowl still sat on the counter, batter drying at the edges. And Adrian stood near the fridge, one hand braced against the granite like he was holding the room down. His men were there too, scanning corners. But Adrian's focus wasn't on them. It was on the syrup bottle. He picked it up carefully, like it was a weapon, twisted the cap, smelled it. His jaw tightened. Then he held it up to the light. The amber liquid shimmered. Too thick, too glossy. He set it down slowly, then turned, and my stomach dropped even harder. Because on the kitchen floor, near the pantry door, there was a woman, face down, still. One hand stretched toward the phone like she'd tried to call for help. A nanny. Not me. Someone else. Silas's voice was quiet. They sent her first. My throat tightened. Oh my God! Adrian crouched beside the body, checked her neck with 2 fingers. Then he closed his eyes for half a second. Like a man who never gets to grieve, he stood. And when he looked up, his gaze snapped toward the exact wall we were hiding behind. Like he felt us. Like he could sense my breath through wood and plaster. Then his radio crackled. A man's voice. Stairwell breach, 2nd floor, multiple. Adrian's expression didn't change, but the room temperature did. He said into the radio, seal the house. Then he added very softly, almost like he was speaking to someone right beside him, bring her to me. My blood turned to ice. Silas grabbed my wrist. He means you. The twins clung to my legs, sensing the fear now. I whispered, why? Silas didn't answer. He just pulled us deeper into the passage. We moved faster now. The corridor turned, sloped downward. The air got cooler. We passed another slit window. This one looked into a hallway. Shadows moved. Not Adrian's men. Different shadows. Faster. Too quiet. Silas tightened his grip on my wrist. Then we heard it. A voice. Not Adrian. A woman's voice floating through the vents like perfume. Soft. Amused. Mara, it sang. Come out. Come out. The twins whimpered. Silas's face went rigid. That's her, he whispered. Celeste? Silas nodded once, eyes hard. She plays with people. My mouth went dry. The passage opened into a small underground room. A safe chamber, concrete walls, steel door. A second panel waited here like an exit. Silas pressed his hand to a keypad. Red light blinked. Locked. He frowned. It should open, he whispered. He tried again. Nothing. A soft click sounded behind us. I turned. A small camera above the passage entrance rotated, focusing on us. A speaker crackled, and Celeste's voice came through, closer now, like she was in the room with us. Oh, she purred. So he taught you the tunnels. Silas's jaw clenched. Open the door. Celeste laughed softly. Sweet boy, you're still so obedient. The twins started to cry. I pulled them close, heart racing. Celeste continued casual. Mara, darling, do you know what gift I left in the syrup? I swallowed hard. What is it? A pause. Then, delighted. A story. My stomach tightened. She went on like she was telling me bedtime. On paper, it looks like you poisoned the children. My blood froze. The bottle has your prints, she said sweetly. The bowl has your prints. The kitchen cameras. Oh, don't worry. We already fixed those. We'll show you making pancakes. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Celeste sighed theatrically. And then you know what happens? Police. Headlines. Nanny attempts to kill Air children. Adrian's reputation collapses. His empire trembles. And her voice softened, almost intimate. He has to choose. Silas snarled, "He'll kill you." Celeste laughed. "He can try." Then her tone shifted. Still sweet, but now sharp. "But I'm not here for him, boys." A beat. Then she whispered, "I'm here for her." The underground room lights flickered. The steel door across from us clicked once, like someone was trying the lock. Then again. The keypad next to it blinked green for a split second. Silas's face went pale. "She has access," he whispered. The door handle moved, slowly, like whoever was on the other side wanted us to hear every millimeter. The twins were shaking now. I forced myself to breathe through my nose, through the panic. Silas reached into his pocket and pulled out the small metallic object again. Sharp, slim, not a toy. A blade. A child holding a blade like it was normal. My stomach twisted. The steel door opened a crack. Darkness beyond. Then a silhouette. A woman stepped into the doorway like she owned the air. Blonde hair, sleek and perfect. A coat that looked too expensive for an underground room. A ring on her finger, big as a coin, and a scar on her cheek. She smiled at me like we were old friends. "Mara," she said gently. "There you are?" My body went cold. Silas stepped in front of the twins. Celeste's eyes slid to him and warmed with false affection. "Oh, Silas," she sighed. "You've gotten so brave." Silas lifted the blade. "Leave." Celeste looked amused, like a cat watching a mouse hiss. "Adrian trained you to protect the little ones," she said. "How precious." Then she looked at me again, and her eyes sharpened like a blade. "But you," she murmured, stepping closer. "You're the one I missed." My voice came out thin. "Why are you doing this?" Celeste tilted her head. "Because you were stolen from me." My stomach dropped. She continued, smiling like it was a compliment. "I raised you," she said, "for 3 years." My skin crawled. "No, that's not—" "Oh yes," she whispered. "You don't remember the lullaby?" Adrian made sure of that. Celeste took another step. Silas tightened his stance. Celeste didn't care. She came closer, slow, controlled, like she knew we had nowhere to go. "Mara," she said, voice soft. "I'm not here to hurt you." My throat tightened. "Then why?" Celeste's smile widened. "I'm here to take you back." Behind her, footsteps echoed in the tunnel. More shadows, more people. Not Adrian's. Celeste's. She didn't even look back. She just extended her hand to me, palm up, inviting. "Come," she said. The twins sobbed quietly. Silas's blade shook slightly now, and my chest tightened with a truth I didn't want. I was trapped between monsters. Then Adrian's voice cut through the tunnel like thunder. "Celeste." Celeste froze. Not from fear, from satisfaction. She turned her head slowly, smiling like she'd been waiting. Adrian emerged from the corridor behind her, gun in hand, suit jacket open, eyes like ice. 2 of his men behind him. He didn't look at the twins. He didn't look at Silas. He looked at Celeste, and the way he looked at her made my blood run cold. Not hatred, history. Celeste smiled wider. "Hello, darling." Adrian's voice was deadly calm. "Step away from her." Celeste's eyes gleamed. "Or what? You'll shoot me in front of the children?" Adrian didn't blink. "Yes." Silas sucked in a breath. Even Celeste paused at that. Then she laughed softly, like she loved him for it. "Oh," she purred. "There he is. The Adrian I remember." Adrian's gun didn't move. Celeste lifted her hand slightly. Playful surrender. "Fine," she said. "But let's not pretend you don't know the rules." Adrian's eyes narrowed. Celeste's gaze slid past him, to me, and she smiled like she was about to ruin my life with one sentence. "You didn't tell her," Celeste said softly. "Did you?" Adrian's jaw tightened. Celeste continued, voice sweet as syrup. "You didn't tell her why her mother ran." My stomach dropped. Adrian's gaze flicked to me, just once. Celeste saw it. She smiled. "She ran," Celeste whispered, "because she knew what Adrian does to the women he loves." Adrian's voice dropped. "Shut up." Celeste leaned in toward me like she wanted me to hear her confession in my bones. "He doesn't protect," she said softly. "He possesses." My chest tightened. Adrian stepped forward. Celeste didn't flinch. Adrian's gun lifted slightly, aiming at her center. Celeste's smile didn't fade. She simply whispered, "Ask him what happened to your mother the night she disappeared." Everything in me went still. Adrian froze. Silas's blade lowered an inch. The twins stopped crying, like the tension had stolen their breath. I stared at Adrian, voice barely a whisper. "What happened to my mother?" Adrian's throat moved. His eyes held mine, hard, controlled. And for the first time, I saw it. Not fear, guilt. Celeste smiled like she'd just cracked him open. "Oh," she whispered. "This is going to be fun." Adrian's voice came out low. "Mara," he said, "don't listen to—" But Celeste interrupted softly. "She's not dead," she said. "Not yet." My blood turned to ice. Celeste tilted her head, watching my face like she was tasting my panic. "She's alive," Celeste whispered, "and she's paying for what she tried to do." My knees went weak. Adrian's jaw clenched so hard I thought it might crack. Celeste's smile widened. "If you want her," she said to me, "you come with me." Adrian's gun snapped upward, fast. Celeste's men behind her moved too, hands reaching for weapons, bodies shifting. Silas yanked the twins backward. The tunnel tightened with danger, and Celeste looked at Adrian, eyes glittering. "Choose," she whispered. Adrian's gaze stayed on me, and in it, I saw something terrifying. Not just power, not just protection, a decision that would ruin someone. He spoke my name like a vow. "Mara." The lights in the underground room flickered. Once, twice. Then the emergency siren began. Low, violent, shaking the walls. Celeste's smile never faded. She lifted her hand, palm open toward me, inviting again. And behind her, the steel door began to close slowly, like time itself was running out. If you want part 3, what Adrian did the night my mother disappeared, what's really in the syrup, and what happens when I make the choice Celeste thinks I'll make, follow right now, because the next chapter is where the truth stops being a mystery and starts being a weapon.